Emma, by the way, your hair looks amazing. Hi, everybody. We haven't done one of these for a while, so it's nice to be back, seeing you all. I've missed you all. I hope you're all well. So following on from lockdown sessions, we still want to interview fabulous people. So today's guest is Peter Gold, a friend of the RDLC, and an Ibiza conference veteran, the man who is never wrong when it comes to technology. Live for that one, Peter.
Yeah.
Our go-to futurologist, advisor for all things tech, especially rec tech, and Peter's still at Cornerstone. So he looks after, he's the head of rec solutions for Cornerstone still. So he's the man who knows this stuff. It was interesting, just offline there, we've just been talking about bots and all sorts of things. So there's some brilliant conversation to be going on here. It depends if you're McDonald's or the Gavroche, so we'll have that debate as well. Peter, hi, can I just say your setup in your van looks amazing. You've got a Gary Gold mic. You look fit as a butcher's dog still. Do you want to say hello to everyone before I just kick off for this?
Hey, everybody. Yeah, obviously the gold mic is only for today, Gary. And I'm only looking maybe a little bit fit and tan because I was away last week cycling for 3 days on Dartmoor, and we actually had sunshine. So, yeah, rather than rain.
That's brilliant. Right. So if people don't remember, Peter does extreme marathons and double marathons. So, you know, it's just, there's obviously something wrong with you, mate.
Yeah, which is why it says made for miles on my T-shirt, you see.
Made for miles, that's brilliant. Yes, made for comfort. Well, the world is continuing to change as fast as ever. I've suggested a few headlines here. So things that to consider and cover off today. The way people are working now, so it's a bit of a different world. So are we set up for that technology-wise, and what do we need to be mindful of? The shift towards this client-centric model, selling solutions, not just bums on seats. The shift towards automation and bots, the demise of talent acquisition, and what's next for us to consider. So, Peter, where would you like to start? Pick a number, any number.
Should we carry on with that conversation we were having just a minute ago about the, low cost versus Michelin star?
So for everyone who you might have just missed that, Peter and I were just talking about bots and how bots can change us. But my sort of vision of the future might be that we have bots that attract data, that populates our CRM. Warm leads then get passed down to BD people. The BD people qualify those leads, sign them off, gets unfair advantage and give it to a delivery team thereafter, and all your finance there be taken care of by bots. And then Peter, you suggested the difference between McDonald's and a 5-star restaurant. Should we start there?
Yeah. Yeah, and so what I was kind of, you were saying, well, do I think bots are, what's the future of bots, I guess really was the question, wasn't it? And
yeah,
and I said, really, it depends where your focus is. So, and part of that will be depending on who your clients are, because if you look at what's happening around automation, I mean, and obviously I work for Cornerstone, we sell a recruitment platform mainly to in-house recruiters, and very often the conversation is around the in-house recruiters say, we want to automate more. Well, by automating more of the process, which is fine, you are removing yourself out of the process. And so if in-house recruiters automate themselves out of the process, there's still a need for somebody else to get involved somewhere in the process. And so as you have to kind of say, well, what am I target market doing? So if I'm, let's say, working primarily with retailers, has that organization actually sorted out their high volume recruiting themselves by automating, or are they actually struggling to address that level of high volume recruiting? Because most in-house recruitment systems are not very good at high volume recruiting. They were never designed for high volume recruiting. So it may be that as a retailer of talent, let's say, which is what the agencies arguably are, you go, well, we can be far more efficient, far more flexible in making that process really, really efficient, really low cost, and go down that, like you said, that kind of bot model. Because in-house will be very often constrained by other systems they have, whether it be Oracle, SAP, Workday, core HR systems, will stop them being able to implement really funky and really advanced, highly automated recruiting systems, which means they might struggle to do that. So if an agency comes along and says, well, hang on, we can do the high volume far more efficiently than you can, more like an Amazon model, then that's where bots fit in. And again, using the example of McDonald's, let's be honest, if you're going to go to McDonald's or any kind of fast food place to eat, you don't care whether you talk to anybody or not. You just want to get in, place your order, transact, get out. You don't care about talking to anybody. Very often, candidates in those high volume roles, they're not really that bothered about talking to anybody. They just want to know, have you got a job? How much will it pay me? What are the hours? Can I do the hours? Okay, submit my application. Have I got the job, yes or no? Just tell me quickly. I don't want a phone call. Just tell me quickly. So there's that element, and that's where bots can be really good and very quickly match you and say, sorry, Gary, you're not suitable because of this. End of. Conversation's finished. Highly efficient. But then those that do pass the process, even easier. And I was talking to an organization this morning who literally, their process is ask some questions, check the qualifications, ask some questions. If they pass the scoring, in effect, they've got a job. They don't even meet them because all the work's done remotely. It's a highly automated process. Very simple. And the work is very simple, to be honest. Whereas at the other end of the scale, if you're hiring, if you're very niche and the only way you're realistically going to engage with your niche target market is you can't just use technology, you've got to actually talk to people. There's a piece of functionality on the iPhone where you can actually ring people and talk to them that we don't use very often. But those that actually use that these days can actually talk to their niche market. So you wouldn't rely on a bot there. You wouldn't want masses of automation for the candidate point of view at that point.
Can I ask a question? So one of the great things that bots can do is help build out your data sets. Mm-hmm. Are there any stats or proven data that gives you an indication that when people have those automated pieces that says, I'd like to connect with you, please connect with me, boring, what's the conversion rate to one of those versus a human interaction where someone puts something personal in there? Or are bots at that level where they can do cleverer things?
Well, two things. There's anecdotal data that says that actually people are engaging more with bots than they necessarily are doing with people. They're asking questions they wouldn't necessarily ask. And then some of the anecdotal data is showing that people are engaging with the bot on a career site out of hours rather than during hours. And that's you'd kind of expect that. But so there's some early data showing that people are happy to engage with the bot, knowing it's a bot, absolutely knowing it's a bot, and saying, yeah, that's working. As for actual conversions, again, again, it's only anecdotal data because it's still early days, but people are still converting through that process because, like I say, they're happy to transact. They just want to transact quickly and easily. And particularly if you're in let's say a temp market rather than a professional contractor market, hourly paid type workers, they can't afford to wait weeks to get a reply on a job. They live hand to mouth. They work week to week. So absolutely, yeah, the data is showing that people in certain areas, certain job types are happy to engage with bots, and they are engaging probably more so than they are without.
Can we come back to this bot piece? Because let's try and cover everything else, because otherwise I'm going to get totally absorbed in this bot thing, because I'm fascinated by it and I think 100% is the future. So yeah, okay.
When we have Gary the bot, then we're all in trouble.
Yes. Like you think I'm not a bot. Obviously, the whole COVID thing has been well, it's been a bit of a pickle. But overnight, everyone started working from home, which caused a lot of dramas in terms of security. I think the Romanians in their garages got very active, just trying to rinse people for money, and became very creative about it. after COVID or where we are at the moment, do you think businesses are robust enough to sustain this work from home model? Are there things that are likely to change to facilitate work from home or give people more flexibility? What's missing from that jigsaw, maybe?
I think the biggest challenge we have is IT infrastructure, the internet backbone, broadband speed. That is where the actual biggest hole in this it all is, because a lot of people are trying to do things. Let's say calls like this. We are beholden to the broadband speeds. People are beholden to the broadband speeds. Anybody listening today, if they can't hear me or can't hear you, or their camera's a bit fuzzy, it's probably down to broadband speed. And that is the real kind of weakness in the whole thing. So businesses, it's not necessarily just our business is robust enough, is the UK infrastructure, is the global infrastructure robust enough? And the answer is no, it's not at the moment. So I think where some companies are trying to go back to work, they kind of almost have to, because they don't have any options. And I think, some people need to go back to work for mental and health well-being kind of positions. So it's a real challenge for everybody. And the technology we are seeing, as a company, Cornerstone, we're busy. People are still investing in tech, and learning is our core business. And we have seen a massive increase in online learning, because as people are at home, therefore they have time to do the learning. They're not commuting, but also there's so much new legislation that people have to stay up to speed with. So it's a challenge all around.
And almost overnight, businesses had to make themselves significantly more secure. So a few organizations were used to salespeople working remotely. They were used to some of their techies working remotely, but they weren't used to their finance people working remotely and having to have access to all of those systems. What did organizations do? And are there still gaps there that there might be opportunities for some of our tech recruiters?
Yeah, I think in tech recruiting, this is where the real opportunity is, because obviously there's a lot of emphasis on IT security. There's a lot of still buying going on of technology, therefore implementing technology. And if you look at a lot of the kind of systems integrators and people that implement technology full stop, there's those people are busy, and there are contractors out there who have not stopped working. We've not stopped working. I've not stopped working. Our company didn't furlough a single person. So, depending on the market, there are, that's where the opportunities are. And again, it comes back to, if you think about where is the risk to those organizations, and the retailers, the food retailers, massively busy, loads of hiring, IT security, massively busy, infrastructure, massively busy.
And what's your opinion on this whole 5G palaver with China? So are MI6 going to have their way? Are we going to have to rethink that? It's going to push everything back?
Well, this is why I say that the whole broadband infrastructure, that's our biggest weakness. And if Huawei are not allowed to supply, then according to what we'll read, it's going to push back our 5G network. And then again, that has a knock-on effect as well, because the 4G won't be enough. And if you think about how many people used to use video conferencing, if you go back before COVID, we wouldn't have had this call like this. We would have done it in London somewhere in a nice posh restaurant paid for by Gary.
Yes. Drinking
wine. Now I get my van and a glass of water and a shaky broadband connection. And the thing is, everybody is now doing this. And if you think about the infrastructure, couldn't really cope before. Now it's really pushing it to its limit. Add that the delays for 5G, it's just a recipe for disaster, really. So therefore, we almost have to go back to work, as many as possible, so we give those that are still in their vans some broadband speed back.
Yeah. But there's going to be quite a few people not working, so they're all going to be on their computers playing games as well. So there's no let off there.
Yeah.
Now there's a massive shift. I explained to you earlier that people becoming a client-centric model. What used to be placing candidates is now going to be filling jobs, offering solutions, not just putting bums on seats. So there's a whole massive shift there. Is there anything that's coming out at the moment? So you're aware, so you predicted using video first, that came off. Is there anything else that we need to be mindful of as we make this meaningful shift in terms of our own business and our own sort of tech stack?
Yeah, I think from a recruitment agency point of view, I think the first thing is you need to be aware and very mindful of what's happening in your client base from a talent acquisition point of view. So, because at the end of the day, the talent acquisition team, they want to hire as many people direct as they can and not use agencies. And there'll be an element of where they think they're best, and there'll be an element of where they will recognize the agency fits in. But what you used to do pre-COVID isn't necessarily what you need to be doing now. Because where before, you like you said earlier, you may have the perfect candidate, you get them 3 interviews, bang, you're going to get a placement. It won't work quite like that now. So I think the first thing is to understand who is your customer, what is their talent acquisition setup, what technology have they got, and what are the limitations of that technology? Because at the end of the day, if you're, let's just say you were trying to sell to, or BT was a client of yours, and if you know what ATS BT have got, and you look at and the easiest way to just go and apply for a job with BT. And if you can see their process is really slow and clunky, and you can see where their vacancies are, which is stuff we do anyway as recruiters, then that gives you an indication as to where their weaknesses are. But then it's really getting involved in that conversation and saying, right, okay, let me confirm your weaknesses. Because one thing that I'm hearing from large organizations is, don't come to me and ask me what my problems are, because you need to do the research and work it out for yourself. Come to me, tell me what you think my weaknesses are and how you think you can solve them. So if you're a niche...
Peter, can I just dive in? I can't believe you said that. That is absolute genius, right? I've been banging on to people about being insight selling for as long as I can remember. Long gone are the days we used to ask questions all day long. You need to know and have an insight as to what that customer needs from you long before you pick up the phone. And it's not hard. You can see what their competitors are doing. It gives you 90% of it, doesn't it? Okay, genius.
Absolutely.
And to be fair, agree with me, you're a genius.
But I used to be the same. I was always big into asking great questions. You've got to ask great questions, not give great answers. But people are saying, stop asking me questions. Everybody wants to ask me what my challenges are. So like I say, you've got to work those problems out for yourself. And then you've got to be able to approach that market for position of knowledge and look at their technology. And then as an agency, you've got to say, okay, so what technology do we need to do what it is we want to do? So don't necessarily jump on the bot bandwagon if you are really high value, low volume, and that's your kind of business model. Not everybody needs to be as efficient as Amazon at shipping stuff. And at the end of the day, if you're a manufacturer, then most manufacturers are absolutely useless at selling their stuff. Or they're probably okay at selling it. If you ever want to return anything, they're absolutely useless. So you may as well just buy it from Amazon, return it via Amazon, because it's so much easier. And I think that's where, in certain markets, a recruitment agency has got to go, right, we've got to be far more efficient at doing this piece of recruitment than the client can do it. But again, you've got to make sure you focus on the technology that helps you do what it is you want to do. Don't just have all the technology.
That's very true. I think a lot of people are magpies. So there's a new bit of tech, and we'll plug it in. And we've got Kamal. Hi, buddy. So Kamal's on the call here today, and he's basically our go-to project manager about plugging all these things in. And one of the things we do see is that people buy these new bits of tech, and they plug them together, and then no one uses them. So you need to make sure that you embed these things to get the value from it and to see how things work. And then make sure people use the CRM properly to actually look at all the rate return and the ROIs and all these things. Otherwise, you're just spending money. You did say something there that I will pick up on, because I thought bots were good for everyone. Now, I'll be looking at a bot for my back office. If that means like my pay and bill can be done instantly with no mistakes, and it'll work through the nights and doesn't need pension payments for a few quid, I can get a rate return for that. It's interesting to say that we don't need bots for everything.
Exactly.
and again, 20 weeks ago, everyone was thinking about bots to help you find more talent. It's not anymore. It's about building out your data and your marketing. Data marketing, back office, data marketing. So we'll talk about that again in a sec. Can I talk about this whole talent acquisition piece? Because we agree on quite a lot of this stuff about the TA. If organizations who deal with like high transactional, low value, lots of people, if they take a bot on talent acquisition, they pretty much put themselves out of a job, right? Because what are they doing with that stuff? But what else can they do? Because when it comes to finding super niche talent, well, they don't respond to talent acquisition. Then they're working with bespoke, brilliant, talented niche players who really know what they're talking about, who've built a provenance for being an expert in that marketplace.
Yeah.
Where do you think this whole TA internal recruitment piece is going at the moment?
So what will happen is the technology piece. So the technology vendors that sell to in-house recruitment, they will be selling and pushing more and more automation. The in-house talent acquisition people are requesting more automation. And what will get to a point is where 80% of their hiring will be fully automated, and there'll be few, if any, people managing that. There'll be people managing the system, but not managing the candidate relationship, the candidate experience. And if you look at the concept of open hiring, so the Body Shop started with the open hiring concept. They took all the application process out. They asked some very, very basic questions. Can you stand up all day? Can you lift this weight? Are you available? First apply, first hired. That's it. They turn up on day one. They check their relevant paperwork, right to work, criminal record, etc. In fact, they didn't even care about the criminal record, and they just hired the first people that got took on, that applied. And the result was they reduced their turnover for their logistics operation by 60%. And they reduced the amount of agencies they required by 2/3. So they used to use 3 agencies to keep their warehouse workers topped up during peak time. They only needed 1. And their labor stayed longer. And the reason these people stayed longer, they said, listen, I can't normally get a job. I've got a job. I'm not leaving. I'm not going to lose it. And because diversity and inclusion become more important, we want to remove unconscious bias out of the process. Large organizations will strip down the process and just go, yep, whoever applies gets the job. So that is so easy to automate. So easy. There's no decision making in the process. It's happening. There's again anecdotal evidence that it's worked for the Body Shop, but more and more will jump on that process.
And where do you think that recruiters or talent partners now, as I think we're calling ourselves, I think the R word is well and truly dead. Where do you think the talent partners fits this model going forward? Right.
So, hate to say it, but what you've got is 80% of the volume of recruiting only delivers 20% of the value to the business. So with respect to all the hourly paid workers, it's a transactional job. That piece will be automated, but they deliver 20% of the value to the business potentially. The 20% that you can't automate that deliver 80% of the value to the business, that's where the agencies have got to focus, in my view, unless you're going to go high volume yourself. So that's where the opportunity is. And therefore, if you think about it, if you are a highly skilled person, you're probably not actively looking for a job. You're a good old passive candidate. You're more likely to go down the route of talking to a good quality recruitment agent that is talking to 2 or 3 competitor organizations. So let's say I work for Cornerstone. I might get approached by a headhunter that says to me, look, we're talking to Workday, we talk to Oracle, we talk to SAP. We've got some really interesting opportunities. All 3 of those, we want to talk to you about moving your career to the next level. Now, that's one conversation with one person, rather than I've got to talk to Oracle, I've got to talk to SAP, I've got to talk to, Workday, etc. So that's where the agency has the place going forward. But it's got to be that personal relationship. Just sending me a couple of emails now and again, it ain't going to work. And also, as an agency, you've got to have those connections in those organizations to be able to say to the sales director for SAP, I've got the kind of people you want to be talking to. But that's for the niche. That's the niche end. That's where the talent relationship, the talent partner will be. But also, don't forget, for the open hiring concept, it's very often will be that the agencies can react. They're far more nimble. The large organizations are like oil tankers, and they need something more nimble to give them that agility. So that's where there's an opportunity, I believe, for the recruitment market to say, look, we've got the technology in place. We don't have to get approval to use a bot. We've done it, and we've got it working, and we've got an open hiring process already in place. There's no bias in our process. We are doing the retailing of jobs and the processing of talent far more efficiently than you ever can, Mr. Tesco, because it will take you 2 years just to get agreement to get a project up and running. In the meantime, all your stores are empty. So that's where the opportunity is, because as more organizations, large organizations, want that workforce that's totally diverse, they struggle to move quick enough. They want to do it, but whoever can help them get there quicker, there's an opportunity there as well. And the technology is there to do that now.
So I'm gonna nick you for another 7 minutes, then we throw it open for some other questions. Okay. So because I've got a couple of things. We mentioned unconscious bias. It's very easy at that low level. When you start to talk about super niche and we're borderline search.
Yeah.
How do you plug in unconscious bias methodology into that level? Because it's kind of just doesn't. I can't work it out in my head.
Yeah.
Is there a way to do that?
I mean, again, Cornerstone launched a load of free training during the early days of the pandemic, and also we've recently launched more training, and one of those is around diversity and inclusion, because unconscious bias, we all have it. And this is why the open hiring process fits, because you're not making any decisions. You're just saying, whoever applies, get the job. There's no human intervention. But obviously in the niche area, there will be unconscious bias. And this is again where I think as recruiters, as talent partners, the more aware you are of what unconscious bias is, how it impacts decision-making process, the more you can guide the client and make sure you submit a diverse range of candidates, you are helping them remove some of the unconscious bias. But at the end of the day, there's only so much we can do. But I think this is where it's a conversation. I would say that is an area where, as a recruiter, the more aware you are of that, the more training you can do on that. And if you Google Cornerstone Cares, there is a free training resource around diversity inclusion training. If you go to an organization and say, look, this is the kind of training we're getting our recruiters to do, this is the investment we're putting into making sure we are aware of unconscious bias, and this is what we're doing to put forward a diverse range of candidates. So we're not just going to go down the route of get me one of those because that's what's always worked. So you have to drive that process, Gary, because it still exists. And I think rather than say, well, nothing we can do about it, I'm not saying you're saying that, but the reality is we could take that approach because the client wants this, therefore I'm going to get this to the client. You go, no, we're not doing that, and we're going to drive it. But again, that's a business decision you have to make, and you have to make a decision. Are you going to champion that diversity message or not? Some would say too risky. Some would say absolutely going to do it.
I don't know. I don't like any form of positive discrimination. I just like people to be based on a true meritocracy, but that isn't life, right? So I totally get that. A quick question on video. So most of us were first movers using video. Do you think it's kind of lost its edge? Everyone's sort of piling in now. So what used to be different, quirky, it added value, shortened the process. Do we still keep investing in video, or would you say the days of the whole video piece is seen its best?
I think it's almost the equivalent of the CV. If I'd said to you 10 years ago, should we all be sending a CV to clients? Like, well, what are you going to do if you don't send a CV? It's the common currency. Of course you're sending a CV. Don't ask stupid questions. Now, I think videos become the CV. It's like if you're not using video as part of the process, the client's going to almost be asking why not, because we've seen a massive influx of video usage with our client base, where before we would do demos, we'd have face-to-face meetings selling software. We would do some demo, but nobody would switch the camera on. We're not visiting anybody. We're doing demos every day, and you're dialing into a WebEx or a Zoom meeting and everybody's camera's on immediately. So video, absolutely. If you look at Sonar have been acquired, Cameo have been acquired recently, the video technology vendors are being acquired because the market sees that as being a growth market at long. They found their spot. For years they struggled to become mainstream, let's say. Now they're there, and I think video is a minimum requirement, Gary.
Right. I think you're right as well. That was me playing devil's advocate. So, all right, Ryan, it's all good.
You playing devil's advocate? Never, Gary.
Yeah, well, it's just a little bit of fun, stir it up. Right, I've got 3 questions for you. Then I'll open it up to everyone else on my back to bots. One, I would personally, if I was using the bot to engage, I would say, I'd say I'm Gary Goldbot or R2D2, but I would use the fact that this is a bot engagement piece, and I would say that up front, because I think a lot of people don't mind it. I think they might have before, but there was this bit of research that said that people under 24 prefer dealing with bots than people. So I kind of get that. So if you agree with that, I'm happy. Right. So what's your feeling about bot as a service? So there are a few people who are going out who are building bots that do one thing. They're spending their money to make sure that it integrates with the CRM and all the systems that are required. It only does the one thing. Rather than actually spend 20 grand, you can get for 200, 300 quid a month, you get something that's sufficient and does that one thing. It means you can't bespoke it, you can't change too much about it, but it will work for you. Mm-hmm. What do you think about those things?
Okay, I'll answer that with a bit of a technical question. I'll try and make it quick, so conscious of time. But we talk about artificial intelligence. Where we're really at with artificial intelligence, we're actually at ANI, not AI. And ANI is artificial narrow intelligence, i.e. it does one thing well. So absolutely, you don't try and get a bot to do everything. You get a bot to do one thing, and so absolutely, bot as a service, bots of platform, then doing one thing and one thing well, absolutely, it's the right way of approaching it. Now, it might be that bot can be configured to do other things as well, but at first you just focus on getting it to do one thing and one thing well, because the technology is not great at doing multiple things. So absolutely, one thing at a time.
And if you were to, with either ends of the spectrum, if you were to have a bot in a recruitment business, would you have them building data, or would you have them trying to outsource some of your financing processes right away? Where their strengths at the moment, where would that add most value?
I think where bots can, for me, it would be where is there limited client or candidate interaction. So processing invoices, sending invoices out, calculating stuff, potentially populating a CRM, not necessarily with going and sourcing candidates, but actually maintaining your CRM. That's the kind of stuff I'd use big bots for first. I'd be saying, where are the problems in my business, and which of those can I solve with a bot? So don't try and solve everything, but identify the things that could be solved more easily. So, like you say, sending invoices out, automate it. Moving stuff down the pipeline, automate it. But actual talking to candidates, I don't think the technology is there to do it really well. But to be fair, some of the bots that do what you call outreach, they're doing it pretty well. Test it, give it a go. Test it for 60 days.
And finally, from me, there are excuse me, COVID wave 3. There are 3 major providers of bots, aren't there? So you've got Blue Prism and I can't remember the other 2. They'll come to me. Which of the 3 do you think is most robust, and which one would you like any platform to be based on if you had a choice?
To be honest, there's loads of them. We use a platform called Paradox, for example, and I've seen that work well and not work so well. So I don't think it's not necessarily which is the best. It ultimately comes down to who implements it the best. very often we blame technology, but actually the problem is the humans that implemented it, not the technology itself, because the technology is pretty dumb. So I think the key thing is with any technology, you'll get all the sales spiel from the software guys. They'll tell you how amazing it is, blah, blah, blah. Say, okay, money where your mouth is. I want a free test or a trial. I want a 60-day trial or whatever. Let's do something really simple. Just find what we call one use case. So that use case might be, we want candidates to be able to search and apply for jobs on our career site. That's it. Nothing else. Just do that one test. We want to run that for 30 or 60 days. But try not to get yourself locked down in too longer term contract, because it might turn out that for whatever reason, their technology is not as good as you think it is. But the simple thing is, think about what you're doing and put effort into getting that right. And don't always blame the tech, because it's not always the tech. Because I can guarantee I could speak to any one of your members and say, how much do you like your CRM? And they'd probably all hate their CRM. Why do you hate your CRM? Because the consultants don't keep it updated. Well, whose fault's that? Is that the CRM's fault or is that the consultant's fault? So, you know, technology is not the answer to everything. Technology is only an enabler, as they say.
It's funny that we've got Kamal in the room. The reason why we've got a project manager who helps do this stuff is because recruiters say, I own that project about implementing tech, because obviously we're really good at it, because we've always done that stuff before. Yeah, we've now employed a grown-up to make sure that things actually are implemented properly and saves us a fortune. I do have another question, but can I just throw this open? So if anyone's got any questions, do you want to just come off mute and just ask Peter? And if you don't, I will.
I'll throw one out there, if that's all right, Gary. Hi, Peter.
Brilliant.
David here.
Hi, David. If you're on the underground, you should be wearing a mask, mate.
I did have one on, actually. I did have one on, so I just turned it off. Great stuff, by the way. Really interesting. I'm curious to get your input from this. You talked about bots for candidates, and I agree for that and some other processes. The challenge always is in that follow-up. So I think there's real value in updating your database and keeping up to date by using bots. But then it's when you've got the candidates want to interact with you, and you just don't have the time or resource or capability to do that. How are you seeing that, man? I'm sure it's a challenge for internal customers, for talent acquisition teams as well. How do you see that playing out? Yeah,
it is a challenge for everybody. I think the key thing is about being open and transparent and saying, look, we use a bot because we want to be able to get you answers quickly and easily. But when we can talk to you, we will talk to you. But as everybody, the volumes are massive. So I think it's just about being open and transparent and saying, but giving them an opportunity or a channel to be able to say, I want to talk to you. I really need to talk to you. And then saying, okay, but that might take some time. So for example, I'm trying to get through to somebody, GoPro, for example, online at the moment. And all you get at the moment is you can buy something, but you can't talk to support. So all that does is annoy me. And like, well, I'm not going to upgrade my GoPro after all that. I just want to go away kind of thing. Whereas, so if you're going, you've got to give them the channel, but you've also got to give them the opportunity to talk to you, but be open about it. And that's what I'm seeing is that people are too scared about being honest. People are too scared in the recruitment market, be saying to candidates, sorry, we're not going to be able to get back to you on this. But you've got to be honest. And if you tell people, and you might go, I'm sorry, but, then you've got more chance of winning the game. But you're not going to win it every time. Because the volumes are massive at the moment.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're not even on the train, are you?
No, I know.
That's
he looks like you.
I know. Anybody else? 2, 1. Right. So my final question, Peter. Thank you for doing this, by the way. What's next for us to consider? What's just over the hill? And what question that I should have asked you that I haven't?
Okay. The big thing at the moment is, for me, in the talent acquisition marketplace, is how we've come from a world of buy talent, not build talent. So the client comes to you and they go, get me one of these, get me 4 of these, get me 10 of these. And all the technology has been built around how do I go and find that? I'm going to go and find it, and then I'm going to try and sell this job to them, and then sell this opportunity, sell this company to them, and the company's going to pay them as however much they need to pay them to get them on board. So they're buying talent. We're now moving into build talent, and therefore nobody can come to you and say, right, I want somebody who's got 6 years COVID experience, please, because it doesn't exist. I want an expert in COVID-19. Doesn't exist. You've got to train it. So we're going to move into a world where if you look at internal recruitment, so you become an employee, you get loads of training. And we know this because I work for the largest training company, online training company in the world, who's just bought number 2. So we now doubled our size, and 1 and 2 have come together. So size is massive. So the amount of data we have on training is massive. So we know how much training gets done with employees. As part of the internal career process, we're now showing, hey, Gary, you want to apply for this job? This is how you match from a competency point of view. This is the training we can recommend to you. So kind of Netflix-esque, where people like you also do this training. People like you who want to do this job need to do this training. So we actually build your skills to get you ready for the next job. That's going to move to the external world. So the talent pool, the way organizations will start to nurture their talent pools is they'll say, right, we've got people that are 5 or 6 out of 10. As part of keeping them interested in our organization is we are going to train them. We are going to train them and help them improve their skills so that when they do apply for a job, they are a better quality barista. They have better customer service skills. They are more aware of the new health and hygiene regulations of working in the hospitality industry. So if you look at look at talent or recruitment holistically, whether you're an agency, RPO, in-house, whatever, we can't keep on ripping people out of the marketplace. We've got to put something back in, and it's about building talent is the next thing we've got to be looking at. And you've got to be saying, as a recruitment business, how the hell do you build talent? How the hell do you dip into people that aren't ready yet, and you show them a pathway of how they can become more ready? And why should the client be talking to you about you saying, I've got people that are 6 out of 10 and you need people that are 9 out of 10. This is how I'm going to work with you to help build this talent to place people with you. That is the next thing. And it's all about skills and training.
Well, funny enough, Code Nation, the guys at Opus are all over this. So yeah, we're slightly behind on that. That's brilliant. As ever, sorry, just before I finish and say thank you, cornerstonecares.com.
If you just Google Cornerstone Cares, it will come up with something like, it will come up with the Cornerstone website, and you'll link through to it. It's something like csod.cornerstone/HR, but just Google Cornerstone Cares and you'll find the webpage.
And some free training there for everybody. Yeah. That'd be brilliant.
Absolutely free training.
Brilliant. I'm loving your Mercedes camper van. That's brilliant. I'm loving the fact that you're still fit as a butcher's dog, and I'm loving the fact that you still think enough of us to give us a bit of your time. Thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate it. Say thank you, everyone, and we'll see you soon, buddy. Cheers, mate. See you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.